What if I told you chasing comfort might be the most expensive mistake you never realized you were making? There is a quiet temptation that doesn't announce itself with danger. It doesn't roar. It doesn't threaten. It whispers. It whispers, rest here. It whispers, you've done enough. It whispers, stay where it is safe. And many of us, without even realizing it, have built our lives around that whisper. We chase comfort thinking it'll protect us. We pursue ease, believing it will preserve us. We avoid the discomfort because we fear what it might cost. But what if the greatest cost is not in the struggle? What if the greatest cost is in surrendering our own growth? This is the Five Guys. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Five Guys podcast, the show where we dive deep into the world of financial independence and personal finance. Whether you're just starting out on your journey or well on your way to financial freedom, we've got the insights and strategies you need to achieve your financial goals.
In each episode, we'll provide actionable tips and real-life success stories to inspire and guide you on your path to financial independence. So, grab your notepad and get ready to transform your financial future with the Five Guys podcast. Let's get started. The Five Guys is a podcast dedicated to providing general information and insights on a wide range of wealth-related topics. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and guests and do not constitute personalized financial advice.
The content provided in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It should not be considered a substitute for professional financial advice. Your financial situation and goals are unique, and the information provided here may not be applicable or suitable for your specific circumstances.
We, the host and the guests of the Five Guys, are not acting as your financial advisor. We are not aware of your individual financial situations, risk tolerance, or investment objectives. Any decisions or actions you take based on the information provided on this podcast are your own and made at your own risk. I may be a financial advisor, but I am not your financial advisor. And now that the lawyers are happy, let's get started.
Howdy, guys, and welcome back to the Five Guys podcast. I am your co-host, Dominic James. Chris Monzon, he is not with me today. It's going to be a solo episode today. I'm excited. I'm very excited, as always, right? We have an absolutely important message for you today. I'm, as you know, elated as always. We're going to be talking about comfort and how it is slowly killing us. You know it to be true. Otherwise, you wouldn't have clicked on this episode. Now, if you are watching on YouTube or you have the video function active on Spotify, your phone is not broken. I am more pink than usual. I can't believe it, but I got more than my 26 minutes average, and this is accurate. This is accurate data. On average, I get about 26 minutes of sunlight per day. I know I got to go out and touch grass. Well, I did, and now I'm all sunburned. So no, your phone, TV, tablet, computer itself is not broken. I am a little bit more pink than usual. Hopefully the color grading in the editing process helped it, but probably not. I'm still a lobster. Lobster is as lobster does, right? Something that Forrest Gump probably said once in his life. Anyway, we got 4 big points we're going to be going over in our 20 to 25 minute-ish podcast today. So point 1, why comfort feels safe but shrinks your world. Number 2, the hidden costs of playing it safe. Number 3, comfort versus discipline in the daily life. Might see some comparisons to our previously recorded solo podcast a few episodes back on discipline versus motivation. See if you can kind of pick up on the similarities there. And number 4, the identity shift that changes everything. And number 4 is really where we can start to take action and be our better self. So with that being said, let's get right into it before the sunburn gets any worse. So like I said, starting off strong, why comfort feels safe, but it actually shrinks your world. So comfort reduces anxiety in the short term, but it quietly limits who you are and who you can become, both personally and financially. Well, this is a finance podcast. We got to talk about the money aspect of this. And I promise you, it will all tie in. Comfort is predictable, right? It lowers stress, it avoids risk, and it protects your ego. Maybe you can relate to that a little bit, right? When we chase comfort, we're usually chasing an emotional relief from uncertainty, from the possible failure, there's that ego thing in there again, and the relief from judgment. Financially, that relief shows up in a subtle way, though. Staying in a job that feels secure but caps your income, avoiding investing because volatility feels scary, and spending to soothe stress instead of building assets. Now, I'm not immune to any of these things. I'm right here with you guys, learning, failing, winning, losing. I'm right here in the trenches with you. I'm by no means a master, if anything, a messenger. Here to distill the information I've learned along my path to maybe help you along on your path. Will it be of use? Only time will tell. I hope you'll at least listen. Comfort says, at least I feel okay right now. And it's a feeling that we're chasing, right? But wealth is built by tolerating the temporary discomforts, delayed gratification, skill development, market swings, and negotiating intention, right? Now, I know those negotiations, those come up when we want to get a better salary, we want to get more for ourselves. For you sitting at home saying, I don't negotiate for anything. If you ever listen to the book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, you'll understand that everything in life is a negotiation. The problem is that growth requires friction. As you may know, we are in a new year. We're in February still, and might have started or stopped a new habit. And you understand more than all that new skills, sometimes they feel really awkward. I heard a quote recently from Alex Hormozy. Everything is hard when you don't know what you're doing, right? New skills can feel awkward. New environments can feel threatening, and new responsibilities feel heavy. And oftentimes, building wealth feels uncertain before it feels stable. As you may or may not know, the bell curve of knowledge, the less you know, the more you think you know. But as you start to learn, well, the more you realize, well, I don't actually know as much as I thought I knew. And then you go on this beautiful journey, pain, suffering, all that fun stuff. And then in the end, happily ever after, right? Right? I don't know. We haven't gotten to the end of the journey yet, so who knows? Over time, repeated avoidance builds smaller lives. And I just don't want you or anyone you know to live a small life. You should dream big, do big, take big chances. Comfort doesn't feel like shrinking. It feels like peace, though. And that's where it's kind of like a psychological psyop, even, it just feels fine. Comfort feels so soothing, like a warm blanket, like a hug from a grandma, preferably your grandma. Grandma's been giving hugs out recently. I don't know about you. It feels like peace, but financial peace is not the same as financial avoidance. The brain prioritizes safety over expansion, which is why investing, entrepreneurship, and negotiating raises feels threatening. But long-term financial satisfaction correlates far more with the progress and ownership than it does with ease and predictability. So a question to you, the listener, where in your financial life have you labeled something as stability, but that might actually be avoidance? We've all done it. And it doesn't have to just be finance, right? Obviously, finance channel, you're going to catch me talking a lot about finance, but this isn't just for finance. So where else in your life have you labeled something as, stability? When in actuality, it's just avoidance. Terrible stuff. Terrible stuff. Number 2, the hidden cost of playing it safe. The big idea here is the cost of comfort isn't immediate. The cost of comfort isn't immediate pain. It's delayed financial regret. Choosing comfort rarely wrecks your finances, right? Overnight. Keyword overnight, right? But it slowly erodes its capacity. You see, when you stop increasing your earning potential, You stop building additional income streams. You stop investing aggressively enough for your goals. That comfort protects you from viable losses, but it also protects you from meaningful gains. Playing it too safe is not a good thing. Playing it too risky is not a good thing. But it's all about finding that happy middle where you, yourself, and I, make a plan for yourself and do what you feel comfortable, but what's something that feels right in comparison to your goals. The longer you stay comfortable, the scarier growth becomes because your risk tolerance shrinks. And I'm going to repeat that one more time. The longer you stay comfortable, the scarier growth becomes because your risk tolerance shrinks, because volatility becomes abnormal. It feels abnormal. Volatility isn't abnormal, right? It's always going to be there. But the more you're on the sidelines, the more you don't want to get in the game. Because more discomfort feels like danger instead of opportunity. What once felt manageable now feels overwhelming. Did you know that investors historically lose more money from emotional decisions than market downturns? I mean, we are emotional animals at the end of the day. Avoidance strengthens fear. Avoidance strengthens the fear responses, while gradual exposure increases the tolerance. Getting your toes wet, right? Dipping them in the cold water over and over and over. You know what the cold water is going to feel like. So when you jump in for the 10th time, you're like, yeah, it's cold. Duh. I expected this. I know what cold feels like. I know what it's like to put myself in the fire, right? Don't actually put yourself in the fire. It's a kind of a metaphor, right? Putting yourself in the fire like a sword, sharpen the sword. You get it. Don't burn yourself, please. Please. So, question for the listener: what financial move have you postponed because you felt uncomfortable? And what might that delay actually cost you in 5 years? I think oftentimes we doubt how well we can predict things. But at the same time, our mind loves to run rampant on running predictions, right? Because the mind is a great predictor of different things. Am I gonna hurt myself doing that? Is this a dangerous move? Is this bad? Is this good? Right? But sometimes the mind and the emotions, you think they're one and they start to sound like one, but they're actually two separate beings. Right? One's trying to keep you from danger and one's trying to make the best move possible. So moving on to number 3, point number 3. Do you guys remember what point number 3 was? I went over it in the intro. Comfort versus discipline in daily life. Maybe you'll see some similarities from that episode we did. Was it a few weeks back? Solo episode. Remember that one? Comfort asks, what feels easiest? Financially, obviously. Discipline asks, what builds long-term freedom? If that's your goal. Why wouldn't it be, right? But if that is your goal, right? Comfort negotiates. There's that key. Comfort negotiates. I'll invest when I make more money. I'm sure you've said that to yourself. I deserve to upgrade. I'll start saving seriously next year. Chris always has this quote that he says on the podcast, and I don't remember exactly who said it. It's one of the Stoic philosophers. Big shout out to Chris. I actually just purchased Meditations today, so first time reading it, so we'll see what happens, right? I come back very stoic next episode. No, but Chris always says that the biggest thing that fools have in common is that they're all getting ready to start. I'm not immune to this. I've been the fool. I've been the student. I've been the teacher. I've been many things in my life. I'm not too ashamed to say that I've been the fool who's waited to start, try and build the perfect plan. Well, I need this before I can do that. I need the best camera gear before I can do this. I've been there. Best thing you can do is start. I'm sure you've heard somewhere along the road of your listening journey on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you're listening to. Quick plug, but we are on YouTube and Spotify and podcasts all over, wherever a podcast can be listened to. We are there, the Five Guys. take a listen. Anyway, but the student who at the end of the year was assigned to make the best pot, but you only get one shot, versus the student who was told to make the best pot and you have unlimited tries to make the best pot. One studied, one was a theorist, one was a practitioner. Well, the one who did it actually got better, right? Not the one who studied and got the perfect plan and, he didn't have the hands-on experience, right? So please start before you're ready. Typically in my life, at least speaking from experience, when things are scary, that's probably the direction you want to go. I think we all have had moments like that in our life. Heck, if we're not in those moments often, are we growing fast enough? I don't know. But I do believe we need to run towards fear. And I also want to mention that there is a big distinction between fear and danger. We talk about this. Maybe I talk about this with myself. Sometimes I'll bring up things on the podcast and I'll be like, we talk about this all the time. And I'm like, do we? Do we talk about this all the time? Maybe it's just me. I'm just talking to myself about this all the time. But one of the things I'm talking about with myself all the time, no, I'm not schizophrenic, but one of the things that I mention a lot in my own world is that there is a difference between fear and danger, and that fear is created in the mind and danger is created in reality. If I have a fear of being stabbed, that's fair, rational, right? If there's a guy in front of me with a knife, right, that's danger, right? That's a very real threat. See the difference? One exists in the mind. One we can kind of control. We can maneuver around. And the other, well, I call the police and they have their way with them, hopefully. Anyway, where are we at in this? Where are we at in this episode? Comfort versus discipline in the daily life, right? Let's get back on track. We kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent there. And I love that. I love a good tangent. I won't deny that. I won't deny that. So let's continue on. Let's continue on with the question in this segment of the episode. So, are your daily money decisions aligned with your financial independence or with your emotional comfort? Now, initially, when I saw this question, the first thing that popped into my head was emotional comfort. What could that be? A Starbucks in the morning, right? That's my emotional comfort. It doesn't align with my goals. But the beautiful thing about this podcast, this channel, the Fi Guys ecosystem, is that there's no one right way. There's no one wrong way. There's multiple ways to play the game. We did an episode last year, I believe, in the Fi Crash course, where we talked a little bit about the $3 decisions versus like the $3,000 decisions. And maybe that cup of coffee isn't holding you back. That $4 or $5, $6 cup of coffee. Starbucks is expensive these days. I got 2 drinks of Starbucks the other day, and it was more than the Chipotle order I ordered. I'm like, wow, what's going on? What's going on? Is this serving me? Is this emotional comfort? Is this aligning with my financial views? I don't know. No, it was not. Tell you what, though, it aligned with my stomach. But that's why we always have to be awake. We always have to be on our game to recognize, is this serving us? Or is this doing a disservice to us? Too often in life, in our day-to-day, we just move on autopilot. Go to work, come home. Go to work, come home. Right? But we never stop and smell the roses. We never stop and look at the details. We never stop and take control of our lives. I hope this episode is putting you more on the right path, right? I know it's not going to solve all your problems. I know this isn't the key to the universe. I know that every question isn't going to be answered in today's episode, but at least it's a start. I hope it's the spark. It's the jumping off point. It's the first step in a journey of fighting that comfort. I'm battling it right now. Number 4, my favorite one. The intro was pretty cool. I don't want to hate on the intro, but the intro was pretty cool. But number 4, my favorite, the identity shift that changes everything. Financial growth begins when you stop identifying as someone who needs comfort and start identifying as someone who builds. Comfort is not evil. Crazy, right? 360 plot twist, red herring at the end. But comfort is actually not evil. We're not anti-comfort here at the Fi Guys, right? Rest is necessary. If you go 100% all the time, you're going to burn out. Peace is valuable, right? But the issue is dependency. Needing lifestyle upgrades to feel successful. Needing income certainty before taking calculated risks. Needing emotional calm before investing. And that last one, I want to touch base on a little bit. Needing emotional calm before investing. Investing is nerve-wracking, right? That's why you work with someone who's a trained professional like Chris at Monzon Wealth. If you want to check out Chris, all of his information is down below. He's got everything you might need. And if he doesn't, he knows someone who might. Okay. When you choose discomfort intentionally, keyword intentionally, something shifts. You realize that volatility, it doesn't break you. You realize negotiations, they won't kill you. You realize temporary sacrifice buys long-term leverage. We love that word leverage in certain terms. You stop seeing yourself as financially fragile and you start seeing yourself as financially capable. And you could take out the words financially in this situation. You stop seeing yourself as fragile and you start seeing yourself as capable. When you run towards the things that scare you, when you run towards the uncomfortable, you become that much more powerful, that much more capable. So, one of our final questions, at least for this segment, what kind of investor, what kind of earner, what kind of builder would you become if comfort stopped being the deciding factor? Who would you become if comfort didn't stand in your way? So for our closing reflection today, the price of comfort is paid in unrealized freedom. Comfort feels safe. Investing feels risky. Entrepreneurial journeys feels uncertain. Negotiations feel uncomfortable, but regret compounds faster than money ever will. The life of financial independence you say you want will require financial behaviors that are not comfortable yet. And that's not punishment. That's just the entry fee. So for our final question of the day, what is, and this, you know what, this might be our action step. I don't know. What is one uncomfortable financial decision you know you need to make, and what would happen if you made it this week? We all have one. And if you don't have any financial decisions that are uncomfortable that you know you need to make this week, expand it. What are some difficult conversations you know you need to have? Not just in finance, but in other areas of your life. Health, wealth, love, and happiness, right? What are some conversations you've been avoiding that are weighing on you? I implore you to face the fears and run towards the fire. You'll only become stronger because of it. That is today's episode. My name is Dominic James. I'll be back with you on Friday. I hope you have a great rest of your week. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.